Hello there, crafty friends. Today I have another Make It From Your Heart collaboration video, and today we will be working with pattern 11. Pattern 11 is actually one that has caught my eye for quite some time. There's two elements that I really like. It has a big picture, a 5x7, and then it also has lots of journaling. So two of my favorite things in one layout. So I'm pretty excited about putting this together. In the description box below, you will be able to find links to the other ladies that are participating's channels, and you can watch their videos of how they took the same sketch and created a page that will look totally different. So my photos are very Harry Potter themed today, and my kids, I actually read the first 3 Harry Potter books to my oldest 2 kids, and that started this Harry Potter era at our house. It was Harry Potter craziness for a little while, and it was actually a lot of fun. But this is the Halloween during that stage, and they all decided to be Harry Potter characters, and it was pretty intense there for a while. But I have this stack of papers that doesn't really coordinate, but the reason I have that there is because I thought I would give you some options of what you could use for the background paper for this. I actually am pulling in a yellow/gold color. This is from the I Like Us collection from Close to My Heart, and it's of course no longer available, and so I thought I would go through just a few other papers that if you wanted to recreate this you might have in your stash. This first paper is actually a current Stampin' Up paper. It's from the Green and Gold collection, and it's available online. I will actually put a link of that below as well, but it has this gold foil touch to it, and you can see with the red it looks very Harry Potter-ish, and I just thought it was a good choice. It looked magical with the little stars. That one is from the March-April Close to My Heart Mix-In Pack. This is from the Storybook collection, and I just thought it was like a little more whimsical, and with the stars and the magic, I thought it was a fun option as well. But I opted to go ahead and stick with the yellows and the reds, as you know, it looks very Gryffindor and matches my kids' costumes. On the sketch, this paper runs from top to bottom, but I decided that that was a waste of paper, and so I just cut 4 strips of paper that were the same size, and then when I put the large squares over them, you can't tell that there's no paper behind it, and it doesn't really matter because you can't see it. So this is Scarlet cardstock from Close to My Heart, and it is actually the lighter side. It seemed to match the robes better that my kids have on. And then I'm using black as my last color to add here. So this, of course, is Halloween, but I would guess that some of you may have been to like Harry Potter World at Universal Studios, and this might be a fun way to document that as well. So the picture, I did put honey butter cardstock behind that, and then here's one of my son, and then the story will go there to the right. I will be using potions and spells. This has gotten a lot of use in my craft room lately. 2 videos ago I actually did another layout using this, but it has a totally different look, different color scheme, and it's not even Halloween yet, so I foresee myself using this a lot. But I bring in the title here. I used the Cricut, and I just used a font that I found on dafont.com that is a Harry Potter font. I had a very sticky O right there. I think it was actually backwards, and so the side that had been on my Cricut mat, you know how it gets a little sticky sometimes, and so it was sticking to my finger there, not behaving. But that is going to be the title there, and then I just thought I'd bring this in. This is actually from my scrapbook from like 20 years ago when book 5 came out. Here's the word to the wise: do your journaling, because if you say you're going to do it later, you won't, and this is what your page will look like 20 years later. But I just thought it was kind of funny. I do have to say I actually had to trace the Harry Potter letters back then, like off the book, and my cauldron looks a little homemade because it was. So I also had cut out the letters for the word fan, and of course there's not room over there, and so I will put it over here on the right side. And then I bring in the cauldron, and you can see that I used the honey butter cardstock for the goop that's oozing out of there, and then the little bubbles have been added as well. There is just a lot of blank cardstock, and so I decided that it needed some more interest, and so I took a scrap of the scarlet paper and I random stamped stars all over it, and I think it's a really cute touch. And I decided that that's what I want to do. I'd already glued the scarlet paper to the base though, and so I'm going to have to mask around where I'm stamping, which isn't a huge deal. It would be a whole lot easier to do it though if I hadn't glued it down already. These stars come from a Close to My Heart Design Elements stamp set, and as I do this, I rotate my stamp. I also changed the elevation of the stamp, meaning like sometimes I was right on the edge and then other times I went up, just so that the like stars wouldn't look exactly the same. I just felt like I would get different groupings of stars. I don't know if it really would have mattered in the end, but that's why some of them are up higher than others. And when I got to the edge there, I needed to bring in another piece of paper to, of course, mask off the margin there on the right. But I was really proud of myself as I did this, random stamping all the way around. I ended up not getting any extra ink on the, margins where I didn't want it. So this is what the finished product looked like, and I am pretty happy with the way it turned out. I think the stars look really cute with the striped paper. You may have also noticed I switched out a picture. The picture there on the right used to be of a little boy, and now it's of my daughter. The reason I did that was because I realized that the page that I keep talking about with the Witch's Brew tire swing page that I did with the same stamp set is for my son's book, and these are going to be like really close in like chronological order, and so I just decided to do this for my daughter's book instead. It really wouldn't matter, but I couldn't let it go. So this is from the stamp of the month that came out last October from Close to My Heart, and I had used the little owl and just colored it like fall colors, but when I got done, because I did like a snowy owl, it looked like Hedwig, like in Gryffindor colors kind of, and so, or gave off that vibe anyway, and so I decided to create one with that stamp set and then colored him in with my alcohol markers, and I think he turned out pretty cute. He is a white bird. I did use the brown gray, the lightest of that marker, and then spread that out just so he did have some color and wasn't completely white. So now it's time to make the bubbles for the cauldron. I'm going to go ahead and do that in intense black and let that dry. And then I'm going to turn my attention to do some ink blending on my broom. You can see the little lines without this, but I feel like when you do the ink blending over the top, the individual lines that show where the bristles are really pop, and it just gives it a little dimension. And so I just put some ink there on it, and like I said, the individual strands of the broom really show up. I do have to flip this around in a minute and get the top where my finger was and then blend that throughout. But I like the way it turns out. I think it's pretty cute with the blending. And then I'm going to move to my bubbles in just a minute here, and I use crushed curry. Crushed curry is very close to honey butter, and like I said, that's the cardstock I've been using, and so I go ahead and ink blend with the crushed curry. I did end up not using this actually though, because they were right next to each other, and they do look very similar, but it was bothering me, and so I ended up actually stamping the bubbles again just on the cardstock and cutting it out. There is not a die cut for the bubbles, and so you do have to fussy cut those out. But here I have my journaling, and I actually, with all of the stuff going on at the bottom, there just wasn't really room, and so I decided to bring in a larger piece of black paper and elongate that area so I have more room to play down at the bottom with all of the elements. And you can see that this works much better. I did just maintain a 1/4 inch border around the black paper, so I do have the border of the red showing still. But here is the new bubbles that I cut out, and then I'm going to put the books and Hedwig back there as well. So if you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. I try to post about 1 scrapbook layout a week, and I love to share just what I've created with all of you, and love having a community of like-minded crafters. And so if you haven't already, like I said, I invite you to subscribe, and I always enjoy a thumbs up or a comment if you want to leave those as well. So next I'm going to just scatter the standalone bubbles I did them actually in the honey butter as well as the scarlet, and I'm going to put a few just around the journaling as well to kind of carry the color up through that area. So I'm curious, are you a Harry Potter fan or not? I feel like you either love it or don't. My mom does not like fantasy, and so she's never really understood why so many of her kids actually, enjoy it so much, but that's okay. So I'm curious, are you a Harry Potter fan, and do you have any Harry Potter pictures you need to document? With the bubbles, I go ahead and cluster a few of them together. They look really cute in little groups, and then just to have some stragglers by themselves as well. So I'm about done. I can tell that I need to do something on the left there, do some elements there, but I'm not quite sure what. I did want to use the magic stamp though, and because it's on black cardstock, I needed to use some white pigment ink. This is actually a new thing for me. I've never had white pigment ink before, and so I actually had to search in YouTube because when you order this from Stampin' Up, you actually get an empty ink pad, and then you get the refiller. And so I will link the video I watched below, but she was very helpful in giving directions on how to do this. But basically all you do is you squirt out a little ink. You can ink the whole ink pad, but I just needed a small section because I was using a small stamp. And so you just spread it where you need it, and make sure you wipe that off with a baby wipe. But that was enough for my little stamp, and then next time I use it, or if I have a bigger stamp, I can add more to that ink pad. But it was very helpful, and like I said, I will link her video below. So here I'm just doing the little magic, we're going to just call it magic. It's little stars and twinkle symbols, I guess. But I'm scattering those around my cluster there. And then with the Harry Potter lettering, I didn't want to go crazy just because I already have the stars, and the stars are busy. And so I actually I ended up using these very sparingly. I only did 3. And I actually think that that helps them stand out, and then it also doesn't add to the busyness of the page. So here I am adding some potion bottles, and I fill that up with some yellow potion. And I'm pretty much getting very close to being done. One thing though, I did take a picture of this. I had to stop and take a kid to a activity. And so I took a picture of it and sent it to my sisters. They're like kind of my sounding board. And I knew it needed something else. And one of my sisters actually recommended adding a wand. And so you can see that's what I did over there on the left. I also decided that I needed to bump the stack of books and Hedwig over a little bit. I had it all contained in that black square rectangle, and it just looked very boxy. This is a very linear look, and I needed to kind of break out of the lines, I think. And so I scooted him over and added a few more potion bottles, and I actually like that look a lot more. Thanks for joining me today, and there should be some videos that pop up if you're interested in watching more of my process videos. Have a great day. Bye-bye.